Please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.
Take my mask off. Leave it off rather. Thanks everybody. Nice to see you all. Can I welcome you to the City of Perth February 2022 Ordinary Council meeting, and I'll formally declare it open at exactly 5:01 p.m. I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging on behalf of all of us. It is a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar country. Michelle, can I ask you to recite the prayer, please?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory. Amen.
Thanks everyone. Please be seated. Please note that in accordance with Council Policy 1.4, this meeting is being live streamed to the public. It is also being audio and video recorded, which will be made available on the City's website following this meeting. Let's go through the attendance, shall we? In attendance today we have the Deputy Lord Mayor Di Bain, Councillor Sandy Angie, Councillor Bevan, Councillor Fleeton, Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Coe, and Councillor Leeser. We have an apology today from Councillor Gordon. In addition, I welcome officers, members of the public and any media in attendance tonight. An apology has been received, as I mentioned, from Councillor Gordon, and there are no councillors currently on approved leave of absence. Do any elected members have an application for a leave of absence? No. We now move to item 4, which is announcements. Good, love that bit, as you know. Thanks everybody. So, let me just go through a few things. Firstly, I wanted to make mention of what took place at Elizabeth Quay on Saturday night. I thought the event on Saturday night was a triumph for our city, and I want to thank the City of Perth team. I want to thank the team from Drone Sky Shows, a local company who did great work, Corporate Sports Australia, who assisted with the event management, WA Police for their cooperation, as usual, very cooperative and of great assistance to the City of Perth, to the team from Main Roads, and of course importantly to WA Health, whose rules and regulations we operated safely under. The numbers from the City of Perth preliminary figures on crowd attendance in the Elizabeth Quay Precinct were 7,200, in excess of 7,200. But we know there were significantly more people in the wider area. And by wider area, I mean the rest of our foreshore in the City of Perth side, also across to the Bell Tower area, obviously. Kings Park was very well attended, and I spoke to a number of people who were up there. And South Perth was chock-a-block. And again, South Perth benefiting from our good work, I might throw in. But good luck to them, opportunistically and well played. The bottom line is it was a fabulous event, and it was an event that was built from scratch, and that is even more pleasing. So what we have been able to do is put a new event on our calendar, and that event can take off in a different direction from here on in, but we showed what can be done. And I'm tremendously pleased and proud of the City of Perth team for their cooperation. I'd also want to thank and congratulate all of the teams that were associated with the launch of the new era of the City of Perth and the spirit and theme of City of Light, which included our new logo, and to Block Branding and Nani Creative, who had a short turnaround time well done on their very well received work. We were able to tie all of those things together on the anniversary of the 60th anniversary of John Glenn's famous Friendship 7 flight. It was a triumphant weekend for the city. It has been very well received, and I must add, we've had an enormous amount of media coverage, which money cannot buy. So a shining light for the City of Perth, and we rightfully take back the name City of Light and use it from this day forward for all of the great things that it means. Just one final point. I think it's worth saying that we operated that event safely and with common sense, and everything was framed around the Premier's health message, or Health WA's message, and the framework that they put in place for us. And I think what it showed was people are capable of coming out, following the rules, doing it safely, enjoying themselves and everything that the West Australian lifestyle has to offer, and then going home and returning to their normal lives. And I think that sent a very strong message. And we know that lots of other events in our community have been cancelled of late. This is not singling them out. There are lots of reasons why other events have had to be cancelled, and we appreciate some of them have been financial considerations. But I'm super proud of the fact that the City of Perth ploughed on. We decided we could do it safely, we followed the rules, and people turned out in great numbers, and it's a great triumph for the City of Perth. Also, I would like to mention some other items that are particularly significant, including today, and following off the launch of City of Light and the anniversary. Today we announced the Stage 1 Perth Bounce Back package, a package designed to assist our businesses and encourage them, support them and help them through the challenges and impact of COVID-19 with a new support package. I should note that this is Stage 1 only, and we will continue to respond to the requests and concerns of our ratepayers, business owners and operators. But in short, and you can read about it on our website, there's a dedicated page and a hub where people can go. In short, what we are offering is free nighttime parking. That's 10,000 bays. Street parking is free after 6 p.m. each night, but that quickly fills. This is every car parking bay in the City of Perth, free from 6 p.m. from this Friday night. A very significant offering. Also, fee-free and fast-tracked alfresco dining permits. If people are interested in putting tables and chairs out the front of their premises because it will enable them to continue to do business, our F&B providers, they will have that opportunity, and I encourage them to take that up via our hub on our website. And finally and significantly, $5,000 offering to eligible businesses for quick cash business grants to the amount in the order of $5,000 to help them attract new customers and also sustain their operations in this COVID-19 environment. That was launched at about midday today. I thank the Council for their support and indeed their encouragement to get these initiatives out there in a fast manner, and they've been very well received in the few hours that they have been live. So to my councillors and to the administration who've worked very hard to get this package together and get it out quickly and respond to our ratepayers' needs, I thank you very much for your cooperation in that area. And to that end, and part of that narrative, last week I wrote to the Premier and highlighted that there are concerns with mask mandates and Omicron in our community, that around 60% less occupancy has been recorded in commercial offices within the city. And I've asked the Premier that in response, indicated to the Premier rather, that the city is implementing a range of bounce back initiatives, which I've outlined just there, but also more is required. And the city needs the state's assistance with other initiatives or measures to assist businesses to save costs at a critical time where there is a need for ongoing social distancing and the potential for many businesses to close temporarily if staff are unable to work. We know this is a live issue in our community. There are not as many people coming to work. One initiative I've highlighted to the Premier, which could immediately lessen the impact of COVID-19 for businesses and assist the recovery of the CBD, relates to the Perth parking levy. The impact of the current levy on business is considered significant, where the cost of the levy can make up a large proportion of the overall cost of property leases. And so the city has therefore urgently requested the state to consider: 1, refunding or not charging fourth quarter 2021-22 levy payments, and or 2, not imposing the levy for 2022-23 and or making no increases to the levy for 2022-23. and we have asked, despite the budgetary impacts that this would have on the state, that the government give this the strongest possible consideration. I also note and have indicated to the Premier that the City has raised this matter for discussion at the City of Perth committee meeting, which now has a new date of early March, following a request from the government for it to be deferred by about a week or so because it coincided the previous date with the Premier's absence interstate. So that has gone to the Premier. It is not new to the Premier or the government. It's noise that the councillors around this table have consistently made, but it seems as relevant and as important as ever that this is strongly considered and that we strongly represent it to the Premier, who is the Treasurer, on behalf of the government. So with that, let's return to the script. And item 5.1, public questions. CEO, have any public questions been received?
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thanks, CEO. I believe it's Philip Higgs that we are inviting to step forward. Philip, if you could come forward, state your name, your address, and there is a strict time limit of 10 minutes. Bonus points awarded for every minute that you go under 10 minutes.
Well, thank you for that, Basil. The first question is...
Name and address, please, first, if you could, Philip.
Yep, Philip A. Higgs. I reside at 201 108 Bennett Street in East Perth. The first question, can the council please advise what measures, if any, are being taken to prevent and stop the public drinking, fighting, loud and aggressive shouting and domestic violence by large groups of people that is occurring on a daily basis in and near the children's playground at Wellington Square, which at times results in inebriated people walking in front of cars on Bennett Street? Can the council please advise why there's no security cameras in that vicinity?
Philip, thank you. You've got more questions, but we'll answer them as we go. That might be the best way. So, CEO.
If I could invite the General Manager Community Development to answer this and any future questions.
Through the Lord Mayor, thank you, Mr. Higgs, for your question. The City has introduced several actions to address these issues. Primarily, the City is working closely with the WA Police, who are the core agency responsible for antisocial and criminal behaviour. Subject to other demands, rangers patrol the area 3 times per shift, with additional observations between tasks. Cultural outreach patrol 3 times a shift. Both teams engage as appropriate with the people in the space and report any observed incidents of antisocial behaviour, drinking or drug use to the police immediately. The City Watch surveillance officers also monitor these areas via CCTV cameras, and there are 12 in the area. So they review those each hour and also report antisocial drug use and drinking to WA Police, with other matters reported to appropriate departments to manage. The CCTV camera system has no audio function, so loud, aggressive language cannot be heard while monitoring CCTV cameras. A mobile CCTV camera is placed on the park periodically when increased monitoring is required. The City recently positioned a variable message board in the area to indicate a family zone and no alcohol. Yes, there was movement of the variable message board.
Okay, and the shifts, what are these? Are 2 shift panel days and afternoons, or 3 shift panels days, evenings and nights?
So there is information that we'll be placing on the website so you can get clarity, because the rangers' shifts do change over the week, but predominantly they are from 7 in the morning until 9 at night during the week, and then variable hours. As I said, the CCTV cameras are also used to proactively review that area and report any incidents immediately to the police. And that's 24 hours.
Phil, you can take your mask off while you're at the microphone, Matt, and that might assist everyone, I think, just to be able to hear a bit clearer. No, you're welcome.
So is there any reason why it was just shifted yesterday?
Sorry, just in terms of the variable message board, that has been in place, my apologies, for at least a week. There has been a repositioning of it closer to the playground, and that was based on some feedback, based on community information that was provided back to the City and also to the police at the same time as a request. So it was a proactive change, but the variable message board was located elsewhere in that area.
So there's no thought to put it in there anyhow, particularly with the children are playing, are they subjected to intimidation by various groups?
Through the Lord Mayor, we do respond to the data, so we are evidence-based in terms of where the incidents are, and as I said, we have 12 CCTV cameras there. We did have the variable message board there in regards to the ensuring that people were aware they couldn't consume alcohol on the premises. And as I said, we got some recent information as one of our stakeholder meetings that happened on Friday last week that involved a regular meeting we had with police and a representative from the East Perth Community Group. And that feedback was a request in terms of looking at relocating it, which we've responded to.
Philip, can I just jump in there too? In my 16 months of experience now with these areas and these issues and these antisocial issues, the message boards have an impact, and that might last a few days or a week, and then they tend to have less impact. And so it is important that it moves and we try and maximise the impact. It's only one weapon. If that's
No, I understand that, Basil, but it doesn't make sense to me when it's on the corner of Wellington and further right down the park when people are coming in, but not actually in the area of children.
Yeah, okay, fair enough and noted. Thank you.
Okay. In relation to the second question, can the council please advise how regularly and at what times the council rages, security watch police and other security patrols take place at the park and are gathering information when the instances most occur?
Thank you, Kylie. We'll go back to you.
Through you, Lord Mayor. So our service level commitment is for rangers to patrol the area a minimum of 3 times per shift. Cultural outreach patrol 3 times per shift also, and as I said, the surveillance officers patrol the cameras every hour. This is conditional on staffing levels and workload and other operational demands across the city. Currently, we have increased our CCTV patrols to every 15 minutes for this area and a range of other key locations. Again, all antisocial, criminal, drinking and drug behaviours are reported to WA Police immediately. Police patrols and actions are independent of City of Perth actions, and our patrol times are targeted based on intelligence-led resourcing models informed by analysis of the CCTV incident trends, other known hotspots across the city and historical data.
Approximately 3 weeks ago, there was a major incident there where there was quite a large amount of alcohol drunk. It broke out at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It required 3 police cars there, 6 on push bikes. The frustrations that myself and other people that live in that area, if the individuals were monitoring it, doing it properly, it would not get that far. Surely anybody can see that. If the individuals were monitoring it and relaying it back, it got very nasty there. So when there's 4 police cars tied up, 3 on bikes, that's taking it away from Northbridge and somewhere else, and it could have been prevented that day.
Mr. Higgs, just a reminder that we're here for questions and not statements. Although, can I say, I share your frustration. I absolutely hear your frustration. This is an area that we spend a lot of time on, and we want results. We want results as much as you do and as much of the community. And in fact, we are the community. But I do understand what you're saying. On that specific point, Kylie, is there a response to?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We do encourage everyone who, if they do see incidents of antisocial behaviour, to contact the police directly. And as I said, as soon as we observe any incidents on the CCTV cameras, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we report it immediately and log it through so we can get our data. So again, the response for the police is a separate action that they would need to address and respond to, but certainly in terms of our service standards, we do advise the police as soon as we observe any behaviours, and we encourage the community to also do so. Thank you.
I think Basil's already answered this question, but I will put it in there. Is the council aware of the concerns raised by many East Perth local residents and popular on social media accounts, such as the East Perth Local?
Yeah. Sorry, the question was, is it monitored, did you say?
No. Is the council aware?
Oh, well, absolutely aware, because we're frequent visitors, readers, posters, contributors. We interact. We absolutely follow along with what's being said. It's one of the tools in the fight against antisocial behaviour in that area, and it's one that we use and take very, very seriously. The City of Perth has a significant role to play here, but we are not the only ones. and we work and continue to work with state government, and I'm absolutely delighted to say that Minister Carey, who is not only the local member for Perth, but also now assumes control for a good deal of this area and some of the antisocial issues that are taking place, has general oversight for this. We continue to work with him, with the police, and all of the other agencies that are engaged for better outcomes. And quite frankly, Phil, it occupies a lot of our time and occupies a lot of my time. And it is something that we are desperately keen to get a result in. So I understand your frustration. Your frustration is my frustration. And the conversations you're having here are conversations we often have here. We will keep going until we get a result. We were going well. There was a significant improvement in that area. And the money we spent on Wellington Square has been a great boon for the area. And it is with some regret that it is not fulfilling its potential at the moment because some of the antisocial activity that has crept back in. But just because it has crept back in now doesn't mean we are prepared to let that rule. It doesn't mean we're not turning maximum attention to it. And it doesn't mean we're not working every day with police and the state government agencies and the minister to get a better result. And that's an undertaking I give back to you and the community. We want a better result there, and we won't stop until we get one.
I think the frustrations that myself, and I'm not just speaking for me, it was a pleasure to see the different ethnic groups that took advantage of that.
Yeah.
And it's been slowly destroyed because people that are living in the CBD now are entitled to mix and act freely and not be intimidated.
Yeah.
And it's quite tragic to see that's happening on a continual basis.
Yes.
All I can do is take your word away from here.
Yeah.
If you give me a fair hearing, and I just hope that there is a bit more action so everybody can enjoy that park in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's effort gone into it from everybody, and let's hope it can succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, Philip, thank you. Can I just leave this final message? And I know this is relayed to community, and sometimes it's frustrating, but it is super important. In fact, it is the utmost importance that no matter how frustrated people in the community might be, the first course of action still has to be to call the police if there is antisocial behaviour. This is a message that has been reinforced to us by both the police minister, the police commissioner, and the police officers in charge of our area. So important that we call the police if we see a disturbance or issue so that they can log the issue and the response times. And it is with that data that we are able to push ahead and get better results. So we hear you, we understand you. We are working very hard on this collaboratively together, and please, please call the police when there is an opportunity to do so.
Just one last thing, Basil. There's a number of electricity boxes that get vandalised down there.
Yeah.
Now, certain individuals opened them up because there's the availability of a 3-point plug, a 240, where they break in.
Yeah.
I think the boxes would be predominantly to control the irrigation.
Okay.
But it could be dangerous if someone does get electrocuted.
There's power points in there, isn't there?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Right.
individuals break into there, set up boom boxes and charge various electrical appliances, but they could just plug into something that they shouldn't touch too.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Thanks for, we appreciate you being here tonight, and thank you for making your points well, and we appreciate it in a respectful manner. CEO, are there any other public questions from the floor?
No, Lord Mayor.
I wanted to say something, but I didn't know that you had to write a question.
Well, this is going to be very unusual because I think I know this gentleman's name. Please come forward, state your name and address, please, and you can ask a question.
I'm just called the Mouse, and I live in South Perth, but I have an apartment in West Perth. I have apartments everywhere, but anyway. Now, I know most of the council people. Now, I was over at South Perth the other day for the drone show. It was fantastic. There was probably 100,000 people from the Narrows right across to the boat shed stacked in there.
How many, sorry?
Probably 100,000.
Thank you.
And the reason they were there was because they could actually get there. There was no parking restrictions like there is in Sky Show from the City of South Perth, which I've said them, and I know all the people over there. And I've talked on the radio before this. We are now trying to organise with Greg Milner, the mayor there, and also the local MP over there, a cat buses service that will go from the ferry all the way up to Carolee Tavern, across the schools and back around the boat along Millpoint Road, which will bring a lot of people into the city and be able to access the ferry. Now, one of the complaints with all the people over there, there is no parking close to the ferry. So that means people can't get over there and leave their cars, and they don't want to park in the city because it costs too much, apart from what you announced before. So what I was saying before is, with Basil's
We need a
former-
question in here, Mouse, of course, remember.
Yes, do you think the CAT buses will be assistance to get people in the city, number one, and to the people like the zoo, but also the Mount Lawley area, get them in through there, but also Vic Park area, because a lot more people will actually come to the city if they can access the buses to get through.
Thank you, Mr. Mouse from South Perth. CEO, is there a question there, anyone?
I think there are actually buses and bus routes, but I hear what you're saying about the CAT system, which actually is funded via a levy on all of the parking bays across the city. So I think that would be something that the other local councils would want to think deeply about before they introduced a levy into their parking arrangements. However, we can redirect your question and also observations to the organisation responsible, which is the Department of Transport.
Great, and we can raise some of those concerns. We have the inner city mayors and CEOs, and we can raise that with South Perth at that time. Thank you for being here, Mouse, and thank you for your question. Item 6 on the agenda is disclosures of interest. CEO, have any disclosures been received?
Yes, Lord Mayor, the following interests have been received. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 12.1C as she attended the launch for Winter Lights last year to represent the City of Perth and deliver a speech. She also met with several representatives of the organisation. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 12.1E as one of the organisers of the event, Paul Nash, is known to her and she has met Paul and spoken to him several times over the past year. An impartiality interest from Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis in relation to item 12.1E as Paul Nash of Corporate Sport Australia was a member of his campaign committee July-August 2020 and Corporate Sport Australia was the event manager for City of Light drone show. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 13.1 as the owners of the Target building. Humich family is known to her being family friends and she has met with Randall Humich several times over the past year. An impartiality interest from Deputy Lord Mayor Bain in relation to item 15.3 as the candidate is known to her. A proximity interest for Councillor Leeser in relation to item 18.1 as the Perth Concert Hall is located directly across the road from a property she jointly owns, and impartiality interests have been received from the Deputy Lord Mayor Bain, Councillor Angie and Councillor Bevan in relation to item 18.1 as they represent the City on the Perth Theatre Trust.
Thank you very much, CEO. Do any elected members have any disclosures of interest from the floor?
Yes, Lord Mayor, I do. On 12.1, item number E, and Paul Nash is known to me and was a member of your campaign, and I was too.
Okay, thank you very much. That's an impartiality
Yes.
declaration. Yeah, thank you. Any others from anybody? Thank you very much. Item 7, would anyone like to move a motion to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held December 21, 2021? Can I get somebody to move that? Thank you, Councillor Fleet, and second to Councillor Bevan.
Just quickly, I'm not too sure if it's in the minutes or the agenda, but it's stating 25 December on what I'm looking at.
Well, that's Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very, very keen, but not that keen. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just make that amendment, yeah. Is anybody opposed there? Okay, this motion being unopposed will declare that carried unanimously. Item 8, questions by members for which due notice has been given. We don't have any there. No correspondence, no petitions. Before we move on to reports, I'm moving a motion that the following items be carried on block. 13.1, the variation to contract 0075/21 safety bollard installation. 13.2, tender 000104, cleaning and lock-up services. 14.1, monthly financial reports November 2021. 14.2, schedule of accounts paid November 21. 14.3, monthly financial report December 21. 14.4, Schedule of Accounts paid December 2021. 14.6, Corporate Business Plan Quarterly Report 2. 15.1, Inquiry into the City of Perth Recommendations, Quarterly Progress Update. 16.2, New Council Policy 2.16, Complaints Management. 16.3, City of Perth Governance Framework. 16.4, Review of Council Policy 3.2, Affordable Housing. Could I now please get a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Council.
Happy to, if I can just pull 16.2. If we can just
16.2.
scrap that and quickly.
16.2
Yeah.
out.
Thanks.
Okay. Yep, that's fine with me. 16.2 comes out. So moves by Councillor Fleeton, seconded by Councillor Gobbett. Oh, I moved it. Sorry, seconded by Councillor Fleeton. Any members oppose this motion? This motion being unopposed will declare that carried unanimously. The recommendations of those items have now been passed, minus 16.2, as just mentioned. They've been passed en bloc in accordance with Clause 9.2 of the City of Perth's Standing Orders Local Law 2009, and the officer or committee recommendations have been adopted by Council. Right, so item 12, Community Development Alliance Reports. 12.1 is Event Sponsorship 2021-2022 Round 2. A revised officer recommendation was circulated to elected members prior to the meeting. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with the revised officer recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Gobbett.
I just wanted to move an amendment.
Sure, okay. Oh, sorry, isn't it seconded first? Yes. Seconded by Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Angie.
Move on.
Sorry.
I still moved the motion.
Yep, sorry, speak to it first and then we come back, Councillor Angie.
Nothing to say, thanks, Lord.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just want to move an amendment to 12.1C, the event sponsorship for Winter Lights at Brookfield Place. My proposed amended, which there should be a copy on the screen, the council approves event sponsorship totalling $135,000, excluding GST, for Brookfield commercial operations for Winter Lights at Brookfield Place, comprising of $80,000 for Winter Lights, $30,000 for local live, $10,000 for carbon neutral initiatives, and $15,000 for evaluation and COVID contingency. My reason for this amendment is that the Winter Lights Festival is an annual transformation of Brookfield Place with a light display and activates that entire precinct. As described in the papers provided to us and the public, the event features the latest light technologies and performances that surprise and delight visitors to the festival, including light projections on 4 heritage buildings, iconic installations and sculptures by Australian artists, and this year the introduction proposed of a new component, Local Live, featuring live art, music and local entertainment to support local artists impacted by COVID. This event is spot on with the city's theme of City of Light and the new brand launched by the Lord Mayor at the weekend. And further, the new Local Live component, as I just mentioned, has been created to support and engage local artists impacted by COVID in challenging times for our community. And as the city works on its first sustainability plan, the proposal to implement carbon neutral component to the event is another great initiative. So it just ticks many boxes for the City of Perth in the strategies it's pursuing. I understand this application, like others in the sponsorship round, have been assessed by the administration, but obviously this is an inexact science, and in the end it's brought to the council for final decision. And on a number of occasions throughout the year we've moved amendments of this nature. The event attracts a significant crowd, estimated at 45,000 at a time of the year when there are a few other events. And my understanding is that this year the city will not pursue its own winter festival at this time. So let's provide greater support for this initiative on this theme of City of Light, on point with the city's brand, and help it grow and succeed, and encourage others in the community to create events on the theme of light.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Angie has spoken, so Councillor Bevan?
I think Councillor Angie articulated it very well. But we talked about activating Perth. If ever there was a time that we need to activate Perth, now is the time. And I think this is a good motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Does anybody wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak for the motion?
Can I ask a question?
Yep, sure.
What did they ask for?
Yeah. CEO?
If I could invite the General Manager, Community Development to answer this and any other questions that may arise.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, the request was for 70,000 for the delivery of the festival. The local live component had a request for 30,000. Formal research in terms of social impacts, economic impacts and event outcomes was 25,000, and contingency for COVID was 25,000, and carbon neutral initiatives were 20,000. So 170,000 in total, and the assessment panel recommendation for the Winter Lights Festival remained at 25,000 as opposed to the amended motion for 80. Thank you.
So, sorry, just to be clear there, they asked for 170,000 and we're giving how much?
Through the Lord Mayor, 70,000. So
Right.
the recommendation is to retain the 25,000 for the event, which is the same as we've had for the last 3 years, but to also add an additional component of 30,000 for the local live, the new element in the festival. And there was also support in that 70,000 to add 15,000 for research and COVID contingency. And that's detailed in the attachment C in the item.
Okay. I'm still a bit, sorry, I'm still confused on how much they asked for and how much we're giving.
So their request was 170,000.
Yes.
And our assessment recommendation is 70,000.
Okay, so they asked for 170 and we're giving 70. Okay. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I'm a bit confused by this layout. Do you include in-kind support in the cash? So you say at the start of the item, the council approves the following event sponsorship totaling this cash value. Are you including any in-kind in that?
Through the Lord Mayor, not in this submission, so there was no request for in-kind in their application. So this is without. If there is in-kind in the submission, then we do put a note in to say there's an estimate to the value of X amount for the city fees. On this occasion, there were no city fees in the submission.
So can I confirm that the dollar value of the recommendation, notwithstanding Councillor Angie's amendment, the dollar value we're talking about is cash only? Yeah.
That is correct.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions that might be useful before?
I might
Question?
just speak against the amendment.
Okay.
So in previous years, we've given them 25 flat, and the panel has looked at 70,000. So it's quite an increase. I don't understand why we're giving money for research and implementation of carbon neutral initiatives. Aren't we just giving them money to host an event? We're getting quite complicated in what we deem as a successful investment of our money, right? So we just want to put money towards getting people into the city. So I'm confused by the breakdown. I don't like how big the increase is. I don't think it's justified. Going from 25 to 70 is fine. Going from 25 to 135, I think is quite a jump.
Through the CEO to the GM, if there's anything to be responded to there. You're not? Okay, rightio. So if we were to support the amendment, what would we be foregoing? What would the implications be?
So if we were to support the amendment, based on the original recommendation before the deferral of one of the elements in this summary, we are actually expending in all our recommendations through currently the full events management sponsorship program. So if we were to increase by the additional 65,000, that would need to be considered in potentially other programs depending on the outcome for the deferred motion or the deferred item.
So to come from somewhere else? Something else had missed out, okay. Anyone else wish to speak for the amendment? Anyone else wish to speak against the amendment? Councillor Angie.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Lord Mayor. As I said, it's a great event and completely on point with our theme. I think, just noting again that the city, my understanding is we're not proceeding with a winter festival this year. I know the cost of that was in excess of, I think, 800,000 last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think this is a great opportunity to build on an existing event, make it bigger and better than ever, and show the community that we're there to support them, particularly when they're creating events that are bespoke for our city and on theme.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. So we will now put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? That's Councillor Angie and Councillor Bevan. Those against is Councillor Leeser, Councillor Gobbett, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Fleeton. So that has been... and Councillor... Councillor Coe sitting over there. Councillor Coe, sorry. And Councillor Coe is against. Yes, so that's defeated 2-6. So we go back to the substantive motion. Now, that was moved by Councillor Gobbett.
Lord Mayor, can I make an amendment to the motion as well? I don't know whether I foreshadow that after this or...
You can make an amendment.
Make an amendment now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So I'm not sure the best way to put it, but I'd like to make an amendment to... I'd like to amend item H, the RSLWA for Anzac Day 2022. So the amendment would be that Council rejects the officer's recommendation to item H and supports the applicant's original request, that the Council asks the applicant to use best endeavours to demonstrate inclusion and equity considerations, including engagement of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples.
Thank you. We need a seconder on that. Thank you, Councillor Bevan.
So the reason I'm making the amendment is that Anzac Day is one of the most revered and long-standing items on our Perth calendar, and it's well known the event is aligned with a national agenda. As a city, we should be respectful of the sanctity of this important event and encourage inclusivity, not dictate it via cash carrots. I think there's a large amount of value in providing in-kind support as well, because mass participation events in Perth are quite difficult with traffic management, etc. By supporting the applicant's original request, we're going to be providing $98,400 ex-GST in cash, which is no different to the cash component that the city has already offered, but we will be providing $51,000 or $51,600 in in-kind support.
Sorry, Deputy Lord Mayor, can I ask you to clarify point 2? Is the minute takers just coming up to speed with that? So point 1,
that
rejecting...
the council,
go on.
That the council asks the applicant to use best endeavours to demonstrate equity, diversity and inclusion considerations, including engagement of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
So just to be clear, I'll make sure we've got this right. So point 1 was rejects the officer's recommendation and supports the applicant's original request. Point 2, asks the applicant to use best endeavours to demonstrate equity, diversity and inclusion considerations. And then I think we just want to be clear on the amounts of cash that we're talking here versus in kind or otherwise.
So the amount of cash that the RSL requested was $98,400 ex-GST, and the in-kind support was $51,600. So we would actually be $10,000 better off.
In cash, but...
in our total event sponsorship.
Obviously we're offering in kind, so it's 50,000 in kind, right? That's effectively the difference.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Bain has spoken to it. Councillor Bevan.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak against?
Can I ask a question first?
Certainly.
So just on the initial condition around the 10,000 conditional on the delivery, have we ever done that to any other applicant?
CEO?
If I could invite the General Manager, Community Development, please.
Through the Lord Mayor, not that I'm aware of.
Anybody wish to speak for the amendment? Against the amendment? Any further? Well, I might just ask a question, same question that I asked last time on Councillor Angie's amendment. So what would be the implications here, General Manager or CEO, if the additional contribution came in?
Through the Lord Mayor, it would be the same as the previous query. There would be an impact and we would need to find it from another program, depending on the decision for the deferred item as well.
And maybe you could help us better understand in kind versus cash, because it would be easy to assume, I might assume, that, oh, well, in kind's in kind, it's not actually money. So, but you're saying it does have an impact?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. We answered this as a direct question in the agenda briefing session, noting that estimated city fees are an actual cost to the city for facilitating events. So it's elements such as waste management, cleaning of facilities, power usage and the like. So it is a transparent way for us to illustrate sponsorship support for an actual cost to ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any further questions or anyone else wish to speak? Question, is it Councillor Fleming?
Question, yeah. So the cash component that goes out the door on the original motion was 100,000. The amendment's now 98,400. So there's a reduction in the funds that go to the applicant. So we don't need to find anything. How does the city reconcile 51,600 in kind being needed to have been found from another pot of money to pay ourselves?
General Manager?
Through the Lord Mayor, my understanding, sorry, I can't see the screen from here. So my understanding was it was $100,000 cash plus an in-kind support for 50,000. Is that correct?
That was the original request, yep.
Yes.
So, yeah, well, that's what it says here. Total amount requested 98,000 cash and 51,600 in kind.
Sorry, there's a difference between 100,000 and 98,400.
Well,
What's the,
that's true. Yes, yes, that's true.
Need to find any more money. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Not cash, no, not cash.
So there we go.
Right. Yep.
So the original request, thank you, Lord Mayor, if I can clarify, the original request is for $150,000. So the funding request was $150,000, of which there was $98,000 cash and $51,600 in kind. So in terms of our recommendations, we just provide the one figure, which putting up was $100,000 plus $10,000 for support for the initiative and the engagement. So in terms of the final figure, if I'm reading what you're saying in terms of the in-kind plus the cash component, is $150,000. So the option, just to clarify, is you could say $100,000 cash and leave it at that, or the $98,400, whatever you like to do. But at the moment, the submission that's been put forward represents an actual cost for the RSL of $98,400 cash they would like, plus they would also like in-kind support for $51,600.
Okay. This may have been answered last week, but I just want some clarity to be reminded around this. I note that we gave 65, 82, 95,000, 85,000, and then for 2020, 21, 100,000. So that amount has increased each year, going back to 2016, 2017. My understanding with $100,000 for 2020, 21 was that money was paid, but then Anzac Day did not happen. Was there any reimbursement of any of that money?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It was actually at the time we had donation was an element we could have under our policy. So the Anzac Day for 2021 was $100,000 cash as just a straight donation. So because it was a donation, there were no expenses expended because the date was cancelled, the event was cancelled, there was no transfer of funds to RSL for last year's event.
So we didn't give that money?
No, we did not.
They didn't get that money. Okay. All right. Are there any? Yes.
Sorry, I'm confused on the 51,600. So what is the breakdown that the city is saying that we need to now go away and find other money from other pools?
You mean
pay,
cash?
No, to
Or-
pay for the
right.
51,600 in kind. What's the breakdown there? Because then we'll be able to work out if
SCA.
Yes, I think what we're talking about is really the fees and other charges, and so that would be a drawdown from our operational budget in the main. So at the minute with these programs, we cost these for full transparency. So the general manager is suggesting it will represent a cost,
Gotcha.
but whether that means it comes off another actual cash sponsorship, that's not the case. It's the cost,
so it won't come off another sponsorship to pay for the 51,600.
not necessarily.
But can I still
no.
know, because I haven't seen what it is, what's the 51,600? So in the paper for in kind, what is it?
I suspect, General Manager, would you like me to guess at this?
Well, through the Lord Mayor, the event itself includes the dawn service in Kings Park, Kings Park is obviously under the state authority, but there's a gunfire breakfast at Governor's House. Anzac Day Parade would have significant level of cleaning and the like through there, and a commemorative service at Perth Concert Hall. So there would be a component through there.
So in kind, are we talking traffic management, waste?
So they submissions as a sponsorship, they sit down with our activity approvals team and work through what their estimates are. Right. The reason we just put a dollar figure and say this is the amount we're supporting you and the determination of the in-kind is because those arrangements may change. And as we have learnt by saying here is the value of the dollars that we provide, sometimes they may find ways that minimise city fees, and by doing that they're not penalised, for example.
Okay.
Okay, are there any further questions, or does anybody wish to speak for or against the amendment? Councillor Angie.
I just had a question because just looking through the prior years, so 17, 18, 19, 20, and it's gone up each year. Was there a contribution of in kind in that vicinity of 50 grand in previous years, or in that tally, that summary table, is that the total?
Through you, the previous ones were cash donations only. So all of those ones prior were cash donations. There was no in-kind element. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we gave them a cash donation, were they still using power? Were they still creating waste? Were they still creating road issues? And did we send them a bill?
GM?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, they would have paid the city for whatever fees they used. So, in effect, the dollars that we're providing would have been used for the event, and if any fees were charged, then they would have paid that through all of their event fees. So, yes, they paid the city fees, and that would have come out of their $100,000 donation.
But we don't know what those fees are, I'm assuming? No.
So, anyone else for or against wishes to speak? No further questions. So, Deputy Lord Mayor, to close out.
Thank you very much. I think the provision of services like cleaning toilets, picking up waste, etc., is the cost of doing business in a capital city. I think that the RSL is a really important part of our community. It's made up of a lot of volunteers, and this is their major event in our calendar. I think we should be proud to be having them in the city, and I think that we should be supporting them to the extent that we can, and I'm not sure that we should be dictating to them how they should run their events, but by using cash carrots, as I like to call them, but we should be encouraging them to be more aligned with our objectives and values. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So we'll put that to a vote now. This is the amendment that is going to a vote. All those in favour? So that is Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Coe, the Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Fleeton. All those against? That's Councillor Leeser, Councillor Angie and the Lord Mayor. And we'll declare the amendment passed 5-3. 5-3. Okay, so we return now to the... So we return to the substantive. The amended substantive, yeah. Has anyone spoken yet? Councillor Gobbett has spoken. Is that right? Anyone else wish to speak for? Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Gobbett.
I don't wish to close, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we go now to 13.1 variation of contract 007521 safety bollard installation on block. 13.2 tender 000104 cleaning and lock-up services on block. 14.1 monthly financial report for November 2021 on block. 14.2 schedule of accounts paid November 2021 on block. 14.3 monthly financial report December 2021 on block. 14.4 schedule of accounts paid December 21 on block. Extracted here. Yeah, absolute majority required for 14.5 mid-year statutory budget review. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Gobbett. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Leeser. Councillor Gobbett, nothing? Councillor Leeser. Does anybody wish to speak for or against, or perhaps a question, Councillor?
Good guess.
Fleeton?
So with the period where we're doing free parking from 25/2 to 30 June, and I'm looking at Mr. Ahern here, so we're not going to be able to collect parking fees to pay the parking levy liability for that period of time. Would it be possible to work out what that liability is for that period of time for the bays that we're giving up? We're not going to be able to do that now, but it would be very interesting to know that liability that we can't pay, but we still have to pay for the state anyway. So it's, foregoing income for us, but we still have to pay the tax bill.
CEO?
Thank you, Councillor. I think it's fair to say we can do some modelling on that, but equally, if those bays have been used during the day, it could be suggested that that day usage is actually providing the cover for the levy. So not as it will directly impact our revenue, but we would anticipate and hope that the usage during the day would cover that off. Could I invite the General Manager, though, Commercial Services, to add if I have not explained that sufficiently?
Through the Chair, thank you, CEO. The ability for us to calculate that will be quite straightforward, but we will need to consider the fact that at night time there are less already visiting our car parks, so most of the values during the day.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, CEO. Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? Anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Gobbett. So we'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. We move now to 14.6 Corporate Business Plan Quarterly Report 2. That is on block. 15 Chief Executive Officer Reports. 15.1 Inquiry into the City of Perth Recommendations Quarterly Update on block. Extracted and absolute majority required here for 15.2, appointment of Audit and Risk Committee independent members. So we note that an impartiality interest has been received by Deputy Lord Mayor Bain. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Can I get a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to say that the quality of the applicants was excellent. We had a hard time choosing and it was very encouraging to see that so many people were willing to put up their hand for the greater good of their community.
Right. Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Councillor Gobbett as the seconder. Would you like to speak to this motion? Would anybody like to speak against this motion? Would anybody like to speak for this motion? We'll put this motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. 15.3 also extracted for debate Local Government Act reform, City of Perth submission. Now, I would like to put an alternate motion. So I would like to put an alternate motion, which I will read as follows. One, that council supports the 6 local government reform themes in principle. 2, that council requests the Minister for Local Government defer drafting of legislation for 6 months to allow the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries to provide the necessary information and detail to make an informed and considered comment on the proposed reforms. And 3, in the event that the Minister declines the proposed deferral, then we support the recommendation of the submission 15.3a. That's the attachment 15.3a. So contained, I'll say that again, support the recommendations contained within the attachment 15.3a. Thank you, Councillor Gobbett. So the city spent the last 2.5 years implementing the recommendations of the inquiry into the City of Perth at a cost of $8.5 million to ratepayers. Further reform is going to come at a cost to the ratepayer, and there has been a heavy burden there already. As you know, supporting the 6 local government reform themes in principle, we're not suggesting that these aren't going to serve a purpose, but it does feel prudent to just allow a little bit of time for the work to be done properly and for the existing reform to seep in or sink in. The local government sector also has been under review since at least 2016. The sector needs reassurance that proposed reforms will result in positive outcomes. The most recent reforms included in 2021, as we mentioned, are still being embedded. And although I support the principles, there is no detail that enables a proper response as yet. We do want to support the Minister and his ambitions for local government. I told him as much. But we do need that detail to be able to make sure that that work is done properly. So we are requesting the Minister defer and seek more detail from his department. We want to be part of this reform to make it and ensure its success. And for those reasons, I am seeking elected members' support in supporting this alternate motion. Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The devil is in the detail, as they say, and having been, I think, something like 27 years in the making, getting to this point, I think it's important that we thrash out and understand the implications of every decision that is proposed as part of the new Local Government Act. I think the concerns for me largely lie in a number of issues that are, for the most part, related to a bureaucratic setup. Early intervention powers, the local government monitor, conduct panel, review of penalties, rapid card resolutions, the vexatious complaint referrals, simplifying approvals for small business and community events, which is particularly relevant within our community, standardising meeting procedures, including public question time, the Chief Executive Officer key performance indicators being published, community and stakeholder engagement charters, ratepayer satisfaction surveys, local government education allowances, standardised caretaker periods, and the CEO recruitment period. I think there's a few things within those recommendations that I would say need to be looked into with a bit more detail, and it's important that we, as you said quite rightly, have all the information to make a fully informed decision. So with that, I'm quite happy to support the alternate motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Does anybody wish to speak against the alternate motion? Councillor Fleeton.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I'm happy with points 1 and 2, but not happy to support what we're putting forward because the Minister will most likely just say, sorry, we're pressing ahead. I don't want to spend council time now going through every single one of the items, but there's several positions that the city's proposed here that I don't support. So if I can request that we split out the motion and vote on each item separately, because I do want to indicate my support for 1 and 2, but certainly not supporting the third item.
Okay. So we will split them out then. Happy to agree to that. So we're going to ask if anybody else wishes to speak. Yes, Councillor Gobbett.
A question, Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
In the event that recommendations 1 and 2 are supported, but recommendation 3 is not, does that leave the city then without a position to take to the state government if the effect of 2 is not supported?
Yeah, good question. CEO?
Yes, it would mean that the city wouldn't have a stated position in relation to the actual recommendations as is contained in the proposed reform.
Okay, thank you. We're going to. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak for or against one? I think, yeah, Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I worry that without the level of detail that you are asking for, and indeed Councillor Gobbett has asked for as well, that we are unable to really provide proper comment back to the department. And from my layperson's reading of a lot of it, it does seem like we're putting more bureaucracy where we don't, where the in fact the stated aim is to take bureaucracy away. So we need more detail. So I'm wholly supportive of your three motions. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on 1.1? For or against? Okay, so we can do the debate in total. So is anybody else for or against any of it? Councillor Bain?
So I concur with Councillor Fleeton. I think it's gone from the screen now, but item 1 and 2 are fine. I think we're being a bit naive about how much impact we'll actually have on the end result. So even if we have a stated position, it might go some way to informing it. The 6 local government reform themes in principle, I think they're great, and I actually don't have a huge amount of issues, but I do have an issue with the way the administration has formed our response to it.
Okay. Yes, thanks, CEO. Thanks, TLA.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I think just to answer that, so the template was provided to us by WELGA as part of a sector-wide approach. And I think it's fair to say that the city, obviously with very limited information, has provided input. But for most of those matters that have been unsupported by the city, it is because the detail is lacking for us to really make an informed decision. So I would just like to make the point that the city has responded to what was before it, but those that are not supported is purely because there was no detail provided.
Can I ask a question? Who wrote up that information? Because it's got Kylie Johnson, I think, as the officer in charge of the report, but my understanding was Brad Salence. Well, my first interaction with it was from someone else.
Yeah, sure. CEO?
Yes, so Mr. Salence was the executive director at the time and responsible for bringing the responses together. The responses have been drawn from across the organisation from the relevant areas, although predominantly it is a governance-based document. I'm not certain why Kylie Johnson's name's on anything, sorry.
So we're still speaking for or against. So anyone else wish to speak for the alternate motion? Councillor Angie.
Sorry, I just had a question because we were provided with the opportunity to provide feedback. So I'm just asking, was the feedback of elected members taken on board in the drafting?
CEO.
Yes.
Anyone else for or against? Okay, well, I've made my points in my introductory remarks. So we're voting on point 1. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Point 2. All those in favour? That is also carried unanimously. And point 3. All those in favour? So we have Councillor Leeser, Councillor Angeli, Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Coe, the Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan. Those against, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain and Councillor Fleeton. Point 3 is passed 5-2, 6-2. 6-2. 6-2. Past 6-2. Thank you, everybody. Slow on the maths. 16.1, extracted, absolute majority required. Review of Council Policy 1.2, professional development. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Leeser. Second to Councillor Coe. Councillor Leeser? Councillor Coe? Anybody against? 4. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 16.2 is... 16.2 has been withdrawn from en bloc, so we will do that now. We'll do that now. 16.2, new council policy 2.16, complaints management.
So
Councillor...
a question to start with.
Sure.
So this came to...
Sorry, move it and seconder, and then we can have the questions. So could we have a mover to deal with this motion, please? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Seconder. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain. Councillor Gobbett, before you speak, was there a question? Oh, you need to speak, right? Councillor...
So this... Or who seconded?
Oh, Councillor Bain, sorry.
Fine. No, so this came to Policy Committee. Councillor Gordon made some very good suggested amendments. It was quite a big bit of work that she'd put forward. I don't see anything in the agenda paper around the context of the change. So I just want to understand the city's understood what Councillor Gordon has said. It's replicated in the proposed policy, because usually we get a summary in the agenda paper saying this was the context, this is what happened, additional information was provided, and this is the outcome.
Thank you, Councillor.
When we ask questions at the ABS, the answer gets put in. I just don't see any addition here.
Sia?
That's my understanding, but I'm going to actually ask the General Manager of Corporate Services to answer more specifically. I do recall that Councillor Gordon was suggesting that it might have been overly complicated, but I don't know that we necessarily reduced any of the elements based on specific feedback. But if I could invite the, through the Lord Mayor, the General Manager of Corporate Services.
Thank you, General Manager. Is that microphone?
The conversation being specific to the complaints management policy for the city. There were discussions more broadly about other aspects of the items that night, but I don't actually recall there being a specific set of comments relating to feedback on this specific policy.
Thanks, General Manager.
Number of policies that were actually deferred to come to a further meeting, but this was not one of them.
Councillor Fleeton, would they be in relation to the council member behavioural complaints policy?
Are the principles woven into this at all?
So they're two completely separate policies?
Separate.
Yeah. Yes.
They're separate. Yes, they're separate documents. No.
Yeah.
This is not about council's behavioural elements at all.
Thank you for answering. So at the Policy Committee, we moved a motion that we deal with it at this meeting, that item. Is it not here because it's not ready, or...?
The motion was to consider it at the March OCM.
Right, okay,
Yep.
That's fine, as long as it's not woven into this, and that's fine. Thank you, thanks for clarifying.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. So, Councillor Gobbett.
I don't wish to close.
And Councillor Bain, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain.
No, I'm good.
All good. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, everyone. So item number 16.3 on block, that is the City of Perth Governance Framework. 16.4 also on block, review of Council Policy 3.2 affordable housing. 17 motions of which notice has been given and no notices of motions have been received. 18 matters for which the meeting may be closed. Councillor Catherine Leeser has disclosed a proximity interest in the following item, 18.1, and is required to leave the chamber prior to council considering the item. Thanks, Councillor Leeser. If any councillors have questions on confidential item 18.1, we will be required to close the meeting to the public. If there are no questions or debate, we can vote on the item publicly. Are there any questions?
One question.
Okay.
As soon as we pass this, is the resolution public?
Did we have to close it before we ask that question?
I think it's better to close the meeting.
Okay, so I think at this point, the advice from governance is that we close the meeting at this point.
Someone needs to move a second to go.
So we have a mover for that. Thanks, Councillor Coe. Welcome to the party. Councillor Gobbett, seconder. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, so we'll close the meeting. Yeah. Live stream goes off, Mika. Crowd at home, devastated. Councillor Lisa, welcome back. We're on item 19, urgent business. There's one item of urgent business that I have consented to being considered at this meeting regarding the City of Perth's new municipal brand. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Do we have a seconder? I will, Councillor Leeser, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Fleeton.
So just very proud to be part of the group and what the Lord Mayor and the City pulled together on Saturday night. It got a great reception from every stakeholder that was there. I like the story and the effort behind it, and it's a great way to kick off what we're doing in the future. So thanks for all of your work, Lord Mayor and the CEO and the team.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to say that it appeared that it was true community consultation to come up with this brand, and I'm proud to. It's been done on our watch. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Anybody wish to speak against? Anyone else wish to speak for?
I've got something to say.
Sure.
I'd like to speak for it because I like the brand. But next time, I think we should get the drones to make the shape of the new brand mark.
Well,
Wouldn't that be a launch?
Can I say so? We were a few hundred drones short of that. Are we open still? No, it doesn't matter. So there were two things that we were hoping. That was one of them. Yeah. The second one was the QR code technology, which would have enabled people who were there to put their phone up. The drones make a QR code like we've been swiping in with. And then the phone registers the QR code made by the drones and then would have taken you to the City of Perth landing page, and then all of the story would have burst open. We're about 55 drones short, I think. And as much as I was pushing behind the scenes, so our next incarnation will do all of those things and hopefully a whole lot more. But thank you. I'll just add my comments. Thanks to the administration for sensing the urgency and realising the opportunity that we had with the 60th anniversary and pushing along to get the result that we did. It's the feedback's been excellent, and I know in this space you don't always get universally positive feedback, but we've had very, very good feedback, so I appreciate everyone's comments there. Is anyone else for or against? Okay, Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think this will definitely be something to be looking back on in years to come and be very proud of. I think the creative concept behind how this came about and the stories that have been told in the image that we are now using on all of our materials is very well resolved, and I think that the more people come to understand that in the future, the more that they'll be embracing of it and run with it. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Fleet, was there anything? We will put this to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Item 20 is closure. There being no further business, I will now declare the ordinary council meeting closed at 6:21 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody.
Could you please all rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.